And without further ado, as they say, Jason, please welcome Jason to the stage.
All right, let's get into it. PopTech DC slides. This would never happen at TED. Oh, no, sorry, here we go. That's a stock PopTech TED joke. All right, I'm going to continue with an opening question. How did you feel in July of 2020? I just want you to lock into that particular moment in time, just for a sec, because this is how I felt in July of 2020 after several months of sheltering in place with my wife and daughter in this home in Berkeley, California, which, I mean, I was so fortunate to be in this house. It's the biggest house I've ever lived in, had everything that I needed, safe, healthy, but all of a sudden, this space started to feel really claustrophobic to me, and in some ways, almost combustible, which I didn't fully recognize why at first, but that became apparent later. So I did a few things. The first thing was that I shaved my head. So that was the first thing, because I had a mullet because my barber closed, and that was the first thing, was to shave my head. The second thing was to make the first ever purchase decision that I've ever made based on towing capacity. That was a big thing. And then the next thing I did, which ended up being very consequential, was that I purchased an Airstream camper, and I loaded my daughter, my wife, and a small dog into this Airstream camper and head out for points unknown. And the only reason this was possible because my daughter was enrolling in kindergarten. She was going to be on distance learning for, they said, at least several weeks. And we figured, like, all right, so if that's the case, like, when are we going to have that opening again? And we decided, like, what if we make the national parks, what if we make the national parks her classroom during this kind of unique moment in time? And we thought we could get as far as Yellowstone to start, and so we got there, and then, you know, no updates on school, like, you guys are good, keep going. So then we realized that nearby is Tetons, the Teton National Park. So we head over there, and absolutely loving this. Like, this is not, there's no plan. It's just like, let's see how far we can drift, how far we can go. And then we're like, oh, it's not that much farther to get to Glacier. So we pushed it up to Glacier. And then we're like, all right, well, this is awesome. Like, let's keep going. I love the Badlands, so, like, why don't we go back to the Badlands? And then woke up one day and looked at the map and realized we were halfway across the country. So we're like, well, why don't we just go the rest of the way to New York City and go camp in the streets of Brooklyn, as one does. And then we ended up doing that same thing 3 more times, back and forth across the country for about 13 months, and what became a grand total of 40,000 miles. So that's how I spent that year. And, you know, when we started doing this and we were, like, posting social media updates, and everybody's like, wow, this is crazy. Like how are you doing this? Like, how do you guys exist in such a small space? So it's like what does home on the road look like? And people are like, wow, this is only a 25-foot camper, and how do you live within there? And it turns out that this space is remarkably well suited for a family to do quite well, because there is a queen-size bed that you can cozy up in at night, and it's very comfortable. There's a kitchen where you can prepare delicious meals, and there's a bathroom, and there's even a bathroom, or a shower, excuse me.
And a shower quite large for a smaller floor plan. Even someone my height can actually kind of fit inside, which is nice.
We can kind of fit inside, which is nice. Yeah, I could kind of fit inside it too. It's got a living room that is well suited for a family, and here it is with the family inside. And this space can also double as a classroom. This is where my daughter spent most of her kindergarten experience, on a hotspot and on Zoom. It also doubles as an office. During this time, I was running a small business that I had started a year prior and was kind of busier and making more money than I'd made in a really long time. But what's really awesome about camper life is not what's inside the camper, it's what's outside. It's what happens when you open the door and what becomes possible, from a pop-up block party in Brooklyn, in the streets of New York, to this view where you prepare a meal and then you carry it over and have that meal with hot coffee and utensils in a super civil way in Yellowstone Park, and this brunch in the park, you know. You can have a bonfire on the beach in South Padre Island. You can go for a run and explore wherever you are, like wherever you are around the country. You can experience everything from the Tetons to Zion, from the Redwoods to this phallic monument up the block here, from the beaches of Southern California to the snow of Salt Lake City, from the swamp to the Soweto, and from White Sands to a whole bunch of Walmart parking lots. Walmart is a remarkable place to stay when you're on the road. So that's the deal, but the issue is that the trouble in your home will follow you, and it will find you no matter where you go, no matter how far you are away from your home. And this whole thing seems almost too good to be true, right? Because it's this postcard, this holiday card, and it was remarkable, and we were the envy of our friends, but the issue is that there was trouble bubbling beneath the surface, and at some point it boiled over. It boiled over. So I want to make sure we can pause on this slide for just a sec. So this was the view that I had at night from that queen-size bed that I showed you before, where every night, no matter where we were, no matter what was outside the door, I would look up at this panel of aluminum foil, aluminum paneling, and I was wondering and reflecting on why I was so deeply unhappy and why I was so ornery. And I was really not proud of how I was showing up for my family in this time, in this moment. And it was staring up at this view each night that I was forced to confront the fact that some deep incompatibilities between my wife and I that I had long known of and tried to look past kind of just became unavoidable. They became, they had to be confronted and faced. And it was looking up at this paneling that I realized that we didn't work, and that if I knew that and I couldn't love her the way she deserved to be loved, that I owed it to her and our daughter and myself to make a change. And so earlier this year, we sold the camper, and my wife and I separated after 16 years. And that was the most difficult and most consequential decision that I've ever had to make. And I know now that it was the right one, but that didn't make it any easier. But it's not the end of the road. Divorce is awful, and there's no way to sugarcoat it, but it's not the end of the road, and the only way I know how to go is forward. So that's what I'm doing. My family looks different now. It's smaller, and also my new camper is smaller as well. I just got a new 19-foot Bambi. We replaced the old one, the 25-footer we call Biggie. This one's 19 feet. We call him Little C's. And the thing is, through this experience, I would say that Airstreaming really kind of got in my blood, and I'm not going to stop going out and exploring. And one day, one of these tin boxes might be my final resting place. But in the meanwhile, I'll be out there on the road, and I hope to see you guys out there. Thank you.